The throne room went silent the moment the Warlord pointed at me. My name is Daniel Ashford, and I was standing in a hall built for giants, holding a folder of trade papers that suddenly felt useless in my hands. The Queen sat above us on a platform of black stone, her eyes glowing faint silver, watching everything without blinking. I was there to finish a simple agreement between Earth and her empire, nothing more. I never expected to become the center of the room. The Warlord's name was Cravan Death, a name every species in the hall seemed to fear. He stood nearly 9 feet tall, his skin plated like armor, his shoulders wider than a doorway. He had walked into the court demanding an alliance, expecting the Queen to bow to his reputation. Instead, his eyes landed on me, the only human present, and something in him decided I was an easy target for a show of strength. "This is what Earth sends to a royal court," he said, his voice shaking the air. "A creature with no claws, no armor, no strength. Your species should not be allowed to stand in this room." Laughter rippled through the nobles seated along the walls. I felt my face grow hot, but I kept my back straight. I had trained myself for years to stay calm when people underestimated me. This was just another version of that old feeling. "I am not here to entertain you," I said. "I am here to represent my planet." Cravan smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Then let your planet prove itself. I challenge you, human, to a duel of honor, right here, in front of the Queen. One exchange. If you refuse, your entire species will be remembered as cowards in this court forever." The room grew heavier. I felt every eye shift toward me, waiting to see how a human would react to real danger. I looked at the Queen. She did not speak. She did not move to stop this. Her silence told me everything. This was not just a threat against me. This was a test for all of humanity, watched by every ambassador in the room. I thought about refusing. I could have said the offer was beneath diplomacy, and maybe some would have accepted that excuse. But if I walked away, every alien in this empire would hear that a human backed down from a fight in front of their queen. It would follow us for generations. Earth had fought too hard to earn a seat in this room. I was not going to be the reason we lost it. "I accept," I said. The hall erupted into whispers. Some nobles leaned forward with interest. Others shook their heads as if they already knew how this would end. A tall insectoid diplomat beside me murmured, "You will not survive this, small one." I did not answer him. My mind was somewhere else, back on a quiet gym floor on Earth, years before any of this happened, where a retired boxing coach named Gerald Whitfield used to tell me something I never forgot. "Power is not always about size," he used to say, tapping my shoulder with 2 fingers. "It is about the moment you choose to commit fully, without hesitation, when everyone else expects you to freeze." Cravan stepped into the center of the marble floor, cracking his knuckles the size of small rocks. The court cleared a wide circle around us. The Queen leaned forward slightly, the first movement she had made since I entered the room. Somewhere in the crowd, an alien voice began placing bets, counting down how many seconds I would remain standing. "The rules are simple," announced the court herald, a thin, robed figure holding a golden staff. "One exchange each. First to fall loses honor. This is a duel of respect, not death. No weapons, no enhancements. Bare strength only." I let out a slow breath. Bare strength only. That detail mattered more than anyone in that room understood. Cravan rolled his neck and grinned at me, clearly enjoying the moment. "You may strike first, little human. It will not matter." I stepped forward, feeling the stone floor cold beneath my boots. My heart pounded, but my hands stayed steady, a strange calm settling over me the way it always did, right before something important. I studied him for a moment, not out of fear, but out of habit. Years of training had taught me to look past size and focus on structure. Cravan was massive, but his stance was wide and flat-footed, built for absorbing hits, not for balance. His species relied on raw power, not precision. He had never needed technique, because nothing had ever challenged him enough to require it. I took my position, feet shoulder-width apart, weight balanced on the balls of my feet, exactly the way Gerald had drilled into me 1,000 times. Cravan barely lowered his guard, treating this as a formality before his inevitable victory. I stepped in and threw a single punch. aimed not at his chest or his jaw, but at a narrow point just beneath his collarbone, where his armored plating had a natural gap for movement. It was a spot I noticed the moment he rolled his shoulders earlier, a small weakness hidden in a body built for looking unstoppable. The punch landed clean. For a moment, nothing happened. The court held its breath, waiting for Cravan to laugh off the hit and end this quickly. Instead, his eyes widened, his knees buckled. The impact traveled through the gap in his armor and struck a nerve cluster most species protect instinctively, but his own confidence had left completely exposed. He staggered back 2 steps, then dropped to one knee, his massive hand pressing against the floor to keep himself upright. Silence swallowed the entire hall. I stood there, breathing steady, watching the warlord who moments ago had promised the room I would not survive this exchange. Now he knelt in front of everyone, stunned, unable to speak. The bets that had been placed against me sat frozen in the air, no one daring to move first. The queen rose slowly from her throne. Every noble in the room straightened immediately, their attention snapping toward her. She stepped down from the platform, her long robe trailing across the stone floor, and walked toward the center of the circle where I stood. "You struck without hesitation," she said, her voice calm but carrying across the entire hall. "And you struck with precision, not anger. That is rare, even among warriors twice your size." I bowed my head slightly, unsure of the correct response in a moment like this. "I was taught that strength without control is just noise, Your Majesty." A faint smile crossed her face, the first expression I had seen from her since arriving. She turned toward Cravan, who was slowly rising to his feet, humiliation clear across his features. "You wish to test the value of humanity," she said to him. "You have your answer." Cravan said nothing. He straightened his back, adjusted his damaged pride, and gave me a slow, reluctant nod before stepping back into the crowd. It was not respect exactly, but it was no longer contempt either. Something between the two, something new. The whispers in the hall shifted from mockery to something closer to curiosity. Nobles who had ignored me completely before now studied me with new interest. A few even offered small nods as I made my way back through the crowd. I felt the weight of the moment settle over me, not as pride, but as understanding. This was never just about Cravan underestimating one man. It was about an entire empire underestimating an entire species. The queen returned to her throne and addressed the room. "Let it be known throughout this court that humanity will no longer be dismissed as weak or unworthy of standing among us. Today, one exchange changed that perception." I finished the trade agreement an hour later, the queen personally signing terms that were far more generous than anything we had hoped for before entering the hall. As I walked out through the tall stone doors, the insectoid diplomat who had warned me earlier caught up beside me. "I did not expect that outcome," he said. "Neither did I, honestly," I admitted, allowing myself a small, tired smile. He studied me for a moment, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "Your species is strange, small, fragile-looking, and yet capable of something like that." "We adapt," I said. "That's mostly what we're good at." As I stepped outside into the open air of that alien city, ships gliding silently overhead, and towers stretching far beyond anything Earth had ever built, I thought about Gerald's words one more time. Power is not always about size. It is about the moment you choose to commit fully, without hesitation, when everyone else expects you to freeze. That single exchange in the throne room would be talked about across the empire for a long time, spreading from court to court, changing the way other species viewed humanity, long before another treaty was ever signed. Not because of size or claws or armor, but because in one crucial moment, a single human refused to back down, and that refusal was enough to shift the balance of an entire alliance. I did not walk into that court looking for a fight, but I walked out of it, having taught an empire that judging a species by their size was a mistake they would not make again.